Shout out to LFOD Radio.
We in the building.
LFOD Radio.
LFOD Radio. Live Free or Die Radio on 91.5.
LFOD Radio. Oh.
You are now tuned in to LFOD Radio, Live Free or Die. I am your host, Uncle Sam. We will be joined tonight by DJ Troy Frost. She is an artist, educator, afro-futurist, and the DJ for Red Shades. After we talk with her, she's going to be hitting us with an LFOD mix. I am joined tonight by A-Ball.
What's happening, man?
How are you?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm great. So, with all these episodes we've been doing in advance, we've been giving the artists the opportunity to pick when it will drop. And Ms. Frost picked the date after It's Lit, which is the episode we just recorded an hour ago. So
Really? Okay.
shout out to It's Lit Boston. We can talk about that. We just had a crazy episode with them. Y'all just heard it last week.
It was
And now
dope.
we're back.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Very healthy.
Yeah.
Very wholesome.
It was a big old, I felt like it was kind of a radio/podcast parade. We were just like, hooray! Like Boston radio and podcasts. And it was fun.
Yeah.
I like talking with those guys.
It
I
was
feel like
good.
they bring out the best in most people, in all people.
In all people.
Maybe. That's it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Most people don't bring out the best in literally everybody, but some people do.
And you would give that to Sam Show and
I would,
Wholesome
yeah.
Mike.
I think,
See how we're making that stick, Mike?
Shout out to Wholesome Mike, Of course, like, they all have, like, separate vibes that just come together, and, like their podcast is all about family. And I feel like they said it, like, we want you to feel like a part of us if you come on the show. And I think it really, it makes me feel welcomed by them.
Yeah.
And,
It's interesting because they said people always get warned before they come on them. Like, they're known for people like
people are ready to being on take a
eggshells,
verbal
but then
beating. Yeah.
they're really at their core super welcoming.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're, like they said, like, they are outspoken, they're not yes men, and they're not gonna like go easy on you necessarily. So, like, you want to be ready, but like don't think you're about to get attacked, or anything like that.
I think it's just about being comfortable in yourself, because they
Exactly,
want
yeah.
you to speak freely.
Right. Have no doubts about anything that
And
you
if
do.
you're going to say something that's going to get you caught up, that's something like you need to be aware of.
Right. Yeah.
They definitely don't want you to come on and just spit like pre-thought phrases.
Yeah.
They will shake you out of that.
Unpremeditated. I don't know.
They'll call you out. I've seen them do it. They'll be like, no, like, stop being political. Like, what do you really feel about that?
Yeah, true. I'll have to look at some more of their episodes.
Yeah. But so shout out the boys. On the flip side, people know we're going to like dig deep on them. They're going to come. Although I feel like people don't really know. It's more after the fact. People are like, oh, I don't know. I don't think people get warned before they come in here or are told to expect anything. Or I don't know if we have a rep that precedes us with everybody.
I don't think so.
They're like, oh, we heard you do your homework, but like that's about as far as it goes.
Pretty much, yeah. I think, we're like, it's in our description, right? Like in-depth interviews.
Yeah.
I think that sort of sums it up. Like we might not like we definitely don't have the It's Lit Boston energy, but we have like I don't know how to say it. Like we kind of like dive into whatever we're talking about deeply, I think.
Yeah. We have our energy.
Yeah. It's all,
We're a platform
LFOD
for whoever's
energy.
here, and we'll like, make room for that.
Exactly.
You don't have to bring a certain thing to our table.
Facts.
But yeah, we're not here for introspection. We're going to get into this Troy Frost episode very shortly here. If you're tuned in on air, you can also hear past episodes on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Stitcher, LFODradio.com, or pretty much any other podcast app. If you're tuned in on one of those, you're probably already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, I would click that button. Then you'll get next week without us having to tell you about it. If you'd rather just hear about it from us, at LFOD Radio on everything, LFOD Life on Facebook. We got to shout out Pavement Coffee for powering us through these back-to-back episodes. the record company for giving us a
Indeed.
space to work in, and of course, all our patrons, patreon.com/LFOD life, if that is new to you. I feel like we just throw so much info at people,
Yeah.
but it's important. It's all out there.
Get hip, you know, like we just have a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, we're not salesmen. We're just going to tell you what it is. And,
Yeah.
you know, check it out. Not going to plug in every 10 minutes and be like, subscribe, by the way. Like,
By the way,
did you know?
like literally interrupting an interview. Like I feel like that's a classic TV joke. It's just like on The Simpsons or something. They're always like making fun of like American Idol and all that. It's just great. They're like, oh yeah, like label forward. And
When
all
we
that
make
fun
it,
stuff.
we'll be having ads for ourselves.
Yeah.
In our episodes. I'll do it if people reference someone who we've talked to before. I'll be like, by the way, episode 115. Like,
Catch
check
that
out, you know?
in-depth
We
interview.
spoke to them.
Yeah.
You know, we spoke. This is going to be episode like 160 something, I think. So
I
we
can't
got a
even
few.
keep track anymore. 167, you said?
160 something. We could
160
look it up, but we're live and direct here.
We could be.
so.
I think we're at 170. I think we're in the 70s. 170s.
The final episode is going to be 177. Final episode of season 6.
Yeah, we only have like a few left to record, right?
Yeah. Well, it's March right now, so we got another 8 to go, baby. So.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, we gotta.
I can't
That's,
keep
you
track
know,
of the
that's not
vortex
interesting
anymore.
Radio. That's not interesting.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting to us, but
It's because we have to work it out, but no one wants to hear this.
yeah, just
No one wants
rewind
this
to the
crap.
part where we talked about patreon.com/LFOD
Yeah.
life. Boom, there it is.
There we go.
All back. We'll be back after this. We're gonna play some music, then we'll be back here with Troy Frost, DJ Troy Frost. You're tuned in to LFOD Radio.
Boy.
And we're back, LFOD Radio. We set things off with new music fresh out of our inbox. Artists hit us with clean records at submissions@lfodradio.com. DJ Troy Frost is with us now.
In the building.
Hello. What's
How
up,
are you?
y'all?
How are you?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
On one.
On one.
On one?
Hopefully
What?
a good one.
Yeah,
Word.
great one.
Tight.
Word.
Before we even go into this, so Troy is all caps. Is
It
that a
is.
Pete and CL reference?
It is.
Oh.
It is a Pete and CL smooth reference. Sorry, there's a
Word.
Yeah, I'm really happy you caught that. No one ever knows that. So yeah, that's one of the places it comes from. So they reminisce over you. As an acronym, spells Troy.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
So-
it's my favorite
I love
hip hop beat, and so yeah, I figured it'd be perfect. And then it also comes from the movie Crooklyn, Spike Lee's movie. The main character's name is Troy. That's my favorite movie, and it's set in the 70s in New York, and that's when hip hop was created. So yes,
I like it.
those are
Very tied in.
did your research or something.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
just have. Yeah, when I see Troy all caps, I noticed that you were doing that, and I was like, I know one other thing
Yeah.
that looks like that. So
It's good.
shout out Pete and CL. That's a classic album if you have not heard it,
Love it.
and it's a classic
Quality.
record too. But
Yeah.
That throws me back to high school, like when I was just like exposed to so much hip hop, mostly the old stuff. I feel like it took me like 3 years to find like every like song that I liked from the 90s, you know. And you
Yeah.
still find gems once in a while, but
Word.
I love just digging through music.
I also am really curious about afro-futurist.
Okay.
How would you define that?
Well, I would define it as, you could say, black science fiction, exploring ideas of either black people in the future or ways that black people are futuristic. But I think it's really just centering the black experience in science fiction. I like science fiction. I really like Octavia Butler's work, and yeah, I mean, I just like things that explore, particularly astronomy, but explore the future and consider the way identity shows up in that. So that's how I would define it, and I think I call myself an Afro-futurist because I care about black futures and want to think creatively about what that means, what that looks like, and dive into works that have already done that. Yeah.
So are you like curating like science fiction works? Like, are you writing
No.
like a science fiction movie or something? Like,
Yeah, I'm to be a movie out at the end of the year. No, I wish.
I was like, wow. Like,
Okay, so in college, I think the way I got into afrofuturism was probably pre-college. I'm a big Missy Elliott fan, and I feel like she's a champion of afrofuturism in hip hop. But in college, I had to fulfill you have to fulfill I went to a liberal arts school. I went to Barnard College, so you have your major, but then you also have your requirements, and one of them was a quantitative reasoning, and I took this galaxies and cosmology class, and I failed it. And then, mind you, I'm like, I was always a really good student, so this was the first F I ever received in my entire academic career. So then my senior year, I took another astronomy class that I think it was called Theories of the Universe. And
that sounds interesting.
It was super interesting. I got a tutor because I was struggling. Shout out to her. And she actually told me, she was like, oh, watch Cosmos, like just as a a supplement. So I started watching Cosmos, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally like the history of the world. Like, that show kind of made the connection between astronomy and history for me, and it didn't feel as boring, and it felt like I could take it in. So that kind of sparked my interest. And then as I started to read other works, so I was an Africana Studies major, so while I'm taking this class, I'm also taking other classes related to Africana Studies. And sorry, I'm very long-winded. I'm trying
You're good.
Don't apologize to us. This
Okay,
is a
cool.
Apology-free zone.
Tight. That kind of like piqued my interest in terms of like the actual factual information about science. And then as I started to read works like Octavia Butler, particularly Kindred, and then Kindred has a graphic novel with it as well, so that was interesting to me. And one of the ways that I want to practice Afrofuturism, create Afrofuturistic work, is to create like a comic about hip hop history, tying in some. So one of the I think it's Afrofuturistic, even though it's more exploring the past. But one of my ideas, and no one steal this idea, I personally think it's brilliant. It's never said this in a public setting, so
if you don't want to reveal the
special for y'all.
goal, thank you.
Exclusive. That's
Yeah.
what we'll drop. That.
There you go.
know?
Now I have to do it too. So this is like this is also
you've
some accountability.
You've built up some suspense, and now
Yeah.
we're just
So-
dying to hear.
I would like to create a comic that it would basically be like Busta Rhymes and Missy Elliott as children. Like, what happened? What would that look like if they were friends?
Okay.
And they grew up together and like went on adventures and stuff. They went on adventures and stuff.
Playground adventures.
Sorry, no, you're not supposed to swear.
I can see that
and,
on
like,
TV already, like a
Yeah,
Saturday
just-
morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Their
Missy and
personalities.
Busta is
Yeah,
just-
exactly. Like, it's Missy and Busta. Like some cute stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think the piece about it that is Afrofuturistic is like, okay, we have these two artists that have like amazing legacies. They are very much Afrofuturistic in their own right.
Now that you've defined it, Missy.
Yeah.
immediately, I'm like, yeah.
You
of
and
course.
I feel like one of the ways that I've kind of engaged with hip hop is creating little tribes in my head, and I feel like Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes, Ludacris, Hype Williams, ODB, Andre 3000, they're
My guy,
all in
Kool
a
Keith
tribe.
there.
Word.
Very
I'm not familiar
future-
with Kool Keith.
Oh,
I'll have
really?
to check him out.
Ultramagnetic MCs. Dr.
But yeah.
Octagon.
Okay.
This makes me think of DHL by Frank Ocean. It's just
No.
like, you never heard
Check it out.
It's the beat just like sends you to the cosmos. Like it's like it's just space. Like you're like, I'm in rap space right now.
That's
like,
ill.
Yeah.
That feels like home. So I think
Yeah.
that's
Check that
kind of
song out.
like my intention of like, okay, where has it existed in hip hop? And then with that particular idea about Missy and Busta being like a comic, I think the piece about it is like we've had these two figures, and like how could we build on their legacy and kind of explore their personalities and their place in hip hop in like a creative, imaginative way, in a way that is not like, we're not ever going to see them together as children, you know,
yeah.
but why not like
They would have been
explore
friends.
that?
That's wicked cool.
They absolutely would have been friends, and they would have been like creating all kinds of cool stuff.
You gotta have Timbo in there too.
Absolutely.
Like, he's
Pharrell,
like-
I think Pharrell's going to be like Missy's little cousin,
Okay.
because they're both from VA. Like, yeah.
It's gonna be a cartoon, right?
Absolutely, it's going to be a cartoon.
I love seeing like caricature redrawings of people you know in real life. Like,
It's going to be like, so, okay, Missy Elliott and whoever else ends up in the show, that's like, hip hop is the Scooby-Doo show. This is like a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Please keep us in the loop on this.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
going to
almost
make
feel
sure
like
I actually
wanna
do
be
it
involved
now.
in like anything you can, any help producing this,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
If you know cartoonists, send them my
Word.
way, please.
Okay.
is there? Wait, so is
If
this
we know
all in the realm?
cartoonists, her way
Hit me up.
at
DJ
Troy
Frost.
everywhere.
Solid.
Everywhere.
So is this all in the realm of sci-fi still? Like, are they gonna go on like space adventures,
Maybe.
or like? I'm just
Yeah,
picturing like a
I
New York
think so.
playground
I
right
mean-
now.
School bus.
Yeah, magic rap
I mean,
bus.
yeah,
man.
absolutely. I feel like the thing I think that makes it, other than it being like, you know, something that's totally made up, and the aspect of it that touches on Afrofuturism and science fiction is so I would want like their styles or ways of being or videos, things that we associate with them, to show up in the show. So maybe, you know, an episode is like Missy conceptual. So Missy Elliott tells a lot of stories about how when she was a kid, like ways that she would express herself, like her connection to music. I remember she shares a lot about like singing in front of her Barbies, and then you see that show up in videos like Beat Me 911 and Pass That Dutch. So it would be cool to have an episode where maybe she's exploring like, what would happen if I was bald and I had like, you know, like where have you seen this before? Like them exploring ideas, and then that being like the start of our favorite videos. Or like, what if she was what if there was a girl sitting on a hill and, you know, she had this big jacket on, or, you know, whatever. Like, just, I feel like
Start it with like a mood
Yeah.
or some setting, and then let
kind
it
of like
all
placing a timeline. Like,
Spiral.
we know it didn't happen this way, and like we creating like a story around
Yeah,
it
yeah.
that
Like,
could then encourage people
You
to
can make it like
find the real deal.
1985 or 3085. You know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That was such a like better. I knew you were gonna. I knew I was gonna be. I was gonna learn something from your definition of Afrofuturist. I had no idea. I was gonna
Yeah.
unlock that.
I like it because you know, I feel like with the Africana studies classes I've taken, it's always like shedding a light on history, but you want to like put a light on the future, and I think
Yeah.
that that's so unique and
Some
very neat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Africana studies, it's interdisciplinary. So you're getting
Yeah.
history and sociology and art. And so
It's all there.
I'd kind of like just to explore ways that hip hop has been Afrofuturist, and how could we use Afrofuturistic themes and styles to explore hip hop.
Word.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, we got
fully.
to keep this conversation going for sure.
Let's do that.
You're definitely an educator. I've picked up on that already. And I will say, even I checked your Twitter. I followed immediately. I guess we were going to follow you anyway, but I definitely followed because I learned quickly I have to use wall chargers. Never plug directly into the USB. Did you know that?
I retweeted that.
That's how they scam you.
What?
I didn't know till I followed her on Twitter.
Like wall adapters?
Yeah, like, you know, you can plug into, instead of using a block, now you can just plug straight into like a USB port on a wall, or some, shout out to whoever on Twitter, like, I don't remember her name, but I retweeted it. But she said that that's how people get, like, you know, information taken and all kinds of stuff, because they're not
swipers are
using
on
the
it.
plugs. Yes.
They're everywhere.
Oh wait, so like they can like suck data out of your phone?
Yeah.
If you're not using the block.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest and say I didn't do my own research, but I trust her.
That's crazy.
I would believe it. I clicked
Yeah.
it and read some replies and comments, and I was like, okay.
Wow.
Seems
and they have
legit.
those like out in public, like the
Yeah,
public
you
charging
just-
stations. Whoa.
Because why not? Because it's a different.
Straight up like regular government hacking. Like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Very afraid of those.
Not a fan.
So you go a lot deeper than that, though, with your education. I read that you view the culture and art form as a tool for education, self-expression, and self-exploration. So you could open up a bit about your passion for spreading knowledge.
Yeah, sure. I think I've always been, since a kid, like really into teaching people things and learning. I remember one of my cousins, she had started school kind of late, and I would bring extra homework for her. I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do this. So I think I've always felt drawn to really just giving information, making people aware. And so I also really love hip hop and have always loved hip hop, and found it difficult to find ways to learn. Like, I remember being in middle school and like, you know, just being silly and like doing things just to like, you're in middle school, you're exploring your identity, you're like sometimes doing things for attention. And I remember being like, I'm gonna come out with a mixtape, and like putting a track list together and like names of songs featuring my classmates on it, but never actually making the music for it. And then I remember being in high school and being like, oh, DJing is so like aesthetically pleasing. Like, look at Solange and Macy Gray and Erica, like they look so cool, I want to try that. And not really having the means or the access to be like, okay, I'm gonna go here and do that. And so, you know, thankfully I've had, like, my uncle he had equipment, so he let me use his equipment.
Nice.
I could find a way to get the information I needed, but I think what motivates me as an educator is making hip hop readily available to particularly its descendants. So if you are a person of color, you grew up in a working class environment, urban space, in the city, like, that hip hop is essentially yours. And I think that in its origin story, like, you see people make something amazing out of very little, out of trauma, right? Like, the Bronx is literally burning down when hip hop is blooming and being
Looting
created
is
and developing.
How they got all their first equipment.
Yeah, that blackout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So really looking at the origin story of hip hop and seeing, like, okay, where are the things that have happened that, like, have sent us on, like, an energetically bad path, and what is there to learn from those experiences, and how can I not only teach young people about hip hop history, but also, like, if you want to learn how to DJ, if you want to learn how to rap, if you just have an interest, an inkling, you have a question, there needs to be some kind of entity that exists to, like, fulfill that for working class kids of color. So my aim is to do that through a youth program that I created called The Breaks.
The Breaks.
Oh.
Yeah, and so it's very new, and I'm learning and growing in it, and I piloted in April.
Yeah, I just started playing in my head the guitar riff.
Yeah, so I mean, that's part of where it comes from.
Congrats on that,
Yeah,
by the way.
that's
You launched
awesome.
it in April, correct?
Yeah, yep, April 2019.
So where, like,
How is it?
geographically?
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
What
Sorry.
happened?
Geographically, like, where is this held?
So it was held in Roxbury at the Grove Hall Library, and it was sponsored by Visions, which, shout out to Visions, it's a nonprofit. I've been working with them since I was 15,
Oh, cool.
and so they supported my efforts. And so yeah, it was held at the Grove Hall Library.
That's
And
big.
it started off as, like, an independent study project in college, and it evolved into, week-long exploration of hip-hop, and so I'm still building on it.
It's definitely happening again, though.
Yes, trying to figure out in what capacity. I'll be working with a high school it's March, so I started this month, actually.
Nice.
If everything worked out the way it was meant to.
Solid.
Anyway, like, I'll be teaching about hip hop. So my hope is that I don't want to, like, move too fast, and, like, it's really not about, like, okay, like, here's my program and here's where I'm at and I'm, like, established. It's more about, like, okay, let me build. So I did this workshop in April 2019, and, there were a lot of amazing parts. There were some parts where I'm like, oh, I forgot about this, or I need to learn more about that. So I think I'm in a phase where I'm developing, like, what is the actual curriculum that I'm going to be teaching and can refer back to, and then like, building that, making that solid. Because finding people to come in and do workshops, that was fairly easy. Like, there are a lot of dope people in the city who are participating in all the elements of hip hop. So I'm like, through the program, doing it in April, I learned that, that not necessarily super easy. And it's something like, okay, I know how to do that. What was like a more, not necessarily a weak point, but just it needs more work is the actual content, like making that consistent over time, and also expanding like what resources I'm using. So in college, I was doing a lot of research and books and things like that. And now I kind of want to take the time to interview local people or find artists that I'm really drawn to. There's this DJ, for example, who was in Almighty RSO. Yep. And he lit his turntables on fire at a show in Boston. I'm like, that's ill. Like, I need to meet you and interview you and figure out how you did that. And like, so I think I need to get more well-versed in my hip-hop history and, most importantly, my Boston hip-hop history, because the program also is specifically for Boston youth.
Twice Thou does a lot with youth, I believe.
Who does?
Twice Thou.
You're putting me on to lots of people.
Okay.
Twice Thou. Who's Twice Thou?
He was from RSO.
Oh, okay. Dope.
I believe.
See, this
now
is what
because
I mean.
you didn't jump
research.
in, now I'm like, I'm questioning. But 90, we'll edit it if that's wrong.
Okay.
But Twice Thou, he does a lot, I think, with youth. But I know he does stuff in the community.
Yeah.
Shout out RSO and
awesome.
all the guys that were putting a lot of work here before it was cool to do.
Yeah, before it was cool to do it. Yeah.
So, what's the overall message that you're trying to deliver with your education, though? Do you have something?
I think my overall message is that hip hop is a working class kids of color's inheritance, and we need to get ours. We need it. Like, that's ours. And my mission is to just make it more readily available, and with information. So making sure that, because I think the other thing too is, and I hope this is clear. Like, I'm good for going on tangents, but I always think about being really young, and my family's working class, and so we like, I had, my basic needs met, like, almost 100% of the time. And it was still like very much a struggle. So I remember being young and feeling like, oh, when I get older and have kids, like, I want to be wealthy and I don't want them to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel that way anymore. I don't want my kids to have to worry in the way that I've had to, or people that I'm close to have had to. However, I do want them to be aware of like, how do economics work? Like, what is required to run a household type thing, keep them informed. So as not to raise entitled children who like, feel like everything is owed to them. So I feel the same way about hip hop. So making it readily available, easy to access these, like all the elements, not just rap, right? Because there is an imbalance, but all of the elements, and informing, like keeping young people or whoever is involved aware of hip hop history, aware of it from like a historical lens, but also a cultural lens, an identity lens. So that, they have access and like see the value. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus just like, oh, you can rap, you want to make money, you want to use hip hop as a hobby, you can do that. If I do that without making sure folks are informed about the true history, then they're going to exploit it in the way that a lot of people in the music industry exploit hip hop. Like, it's not, hip hop is not just an industry, like it's a culture. A friend of mine recently told me that like it's recognized at the UN as like a nation or something. Wow. I got to do my own fact checking, but you could go to the UN and represent, like be a representative. I need to do my research.
That's really cool.
However, like that, for me, that speaks to hip hop being more than just like a means to an end, but like, a culture. So wanting to strengthen
Do you
that.
feel like, I've had some interesting conversations recently about this. So I don't think So like the newer generation of artists, I don't think was always, I don't think they were always like welcomed appropriately. Like you might throw,
Right.
like Flex would throw Uzi like a premiere beat and then get mad at him for not being able to rap on it. Whereas like, why would he
Be able
rap on
to.
that? Why wouldn't you give him a beat that's in his pocket and let him do that? So
Yeah.
it was kind of and I think that contributed to a lot of artists saying like, well, we don't need to know about that then, you know?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, and
That
that
was
is
a
a
whole
dope thing
discourse.
about hip hop is you can come in and as long as you have your own voice, I don't know if you necessarily need to know the history like that. I do think, you know, being a student of the game is always going to be important. Do you feel like you can participate in the culture without knowing all that history?
You can participate in the industry without
Okay.
knowing all
That's
that
a-
history. You could participate in the
I like
culture
that.
to an extent, right? You could show up at ciphers. But even in that aspect, like you're going to be learning. But I do think, especially if you're showing up as a visitor in hip hop, which that's a new term also that my friend put me onto of like, you know, if it's not like your culture, like that you were born with and like you're a visitor. So like showing up with
Respect.
respect, yeah, like willingness to learn, understand, or at
Yeah.
least willingness to be like, I don't know it all. Let me take the time to listen. So I think, I mean, it's not to say that you like, oh, you don't know the history, you don't get to be in the room. Oh, you don't know who this person is. That's not my approach either.
Yeah.
Like, I do not like the old hip hop heads who are like, well, back in my day when they're like, this is what real hip hop is, like gatekeepers, because they don't do the work of
Yeah, I just
making
asked
people
'cause
aware
it's-
of what
Yeah, yeah.
they consider the standard to be, and they're not open to
Right.
the ways in which hip hop will evolve.
Okay.
So I don't know
It
if that
does-
answers your question.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I just asked because it's 2020 and, you know, the 80s, 70s, that's 40, 50 years ago. And, like, it's getting
yeah.
to be long enough where it's, like, almost impressive if someone knows about that. Like, when I was growing up, I didn't know about music from, now I gotta do the math on that, from, like, the 40s and 50s. You know what I mean? Maybe one artist.
Yeah.
It feels important to me because I think, for me, I think it's a method, it's a way to avoid erasure. So, as we know with all black music, eventually it becomes popular. You know, white people gain access to it, and it's like they're accepting of it. So now it's like, oh, it's this cultural American phenomenon. It's like, nah, black people created that out of like
Yeah.
pain and struggle and you know, just needing like something to release, and so that's why I feel like the history matters so much to me, because I've seen the way, like in jazz or in other genres, blues, etc., that like we get erased, and it's happening in hip hop. We see it happening, and I think if people are informed, they can have more informed conversations. So when, you know, I don't know, Samantha Jones, whatever, like pop artist of the day decides to like twerk, it's not like, oh, she's just dancing. No, like you're cool, you're dancing, you want to dance, that's cool. No one's saying you can't dance. And like know who you're like, know where it came from. And my thing too is like, I don't think my mission is to like, you know, clock who is aware and who isn't, who is culturally appropriating and who isn't. I think my intention is more to bring a balance to hip hop, because with the music industry, with hip hop becoming industrialized, I think there was an imbalance of there being more focus on the monetary aspect, how you can make money, you can change your life, even in people's like stories, like people that I respect and admire or whose work I love, they're like, you know, hip hop saved me, or hip hop like was a way for me to like take care of my family. Like that's all valid, and like we cannot keep approaching like cultural gems, like hip hop is an heirloom. We cannot approach it from a scarcity mentality. Like it's not working for us anymore. That's why a Jimmy Iovine or what other, you know, exec can have all this power and make all this money off of something that does not belong to you. Like I'm not saying don't make any money. Like I understand how business works. Business does not care about who you are and what you are. It's about money, right?
Right.
and I still have a lot to learn about business. But like, I get that sentiment, and like, that is not the only capacity in which hip hop needs to exist. And we need to examine the way in which our entry into the music industry was messed up from the jump. Like, it's like rap, in my opinion, to some degree, is a little bit contaminated as a hip hop element because of the way. Yes, because the way it became like a part of the industry. So I'm not saying like all of rap or like.
Right. Well, DJs were the first rappers.
Yeah. We were like the stars, so to speak, and I think like.
The rappers screwed it up. What happened?
I don't think rappers screwed it up. Like, shout out to all the rappers doing their thing. Maybe, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
I was just musing.
He was cutting you off.
Oh.
I was.
Should I continue? Yeah. I don't. I mean, it's fine if you
go ahead.
I'll be quick.
Yeah, because mine's more like an afterthought. I thought you were done, but
no, it's all good. I'll just say. So again, shout out to all the rappers, because I love so many of them and they're all great. So it's not like a take on rappers, but more so like rap as a thing, right? And rap is separate from the MC, I think. The MC raps and whatever. Okay, here's my point. Here's the gem.
You know about the pillars, the elements.
The pillars, right. So when Rapper's Delight became a song, right? Yep. Sugar Hill Gang, Sylvia Robinson signs them, or whatever the process is, it becomes a big song. Now there's a video. Now like people can watch their TV and see like hip hop, this thing. It's been marketed
from day
and packaged. Yes, my problem with that song is that Big Bank Hank, I believe that's his name, he stole his verse from Grandmaster Caz. He says Grandmaster Caz's name in the verse, and nobody clocked that. Like, nobody was like, wait, what?
Was
isn't
it
your name
reference?
this? No, it wasn't a reference. He stole his whole rhyme.
Nice.
And he put it on the track, and he said, this is, like, these are my skills. Stealing is like one of the, that's a no-no in hip hop.
Have a problem with it though? I feel like
he did have a problem with it. That was his song. Like, it was like, a taking like.
Way to distract.
You're
Kaz
spitting
is nice
some.
still, by
he's
the
amazing.
way.
He's amazing.
Kaz is nice.
But I feel like not crediting your sources. So granted, like, I'm not taking away from the legacy of the Sugar Hill Gang and the legacy of hip hop in the recording industry. And like, there's something to be said about that being like, is it safe to say that like stealing is not stealing other people's rhymes, beats, whatever, is like a cardinal rule in hip hop?
Oh yeah. So originality is like very upheld.
Yeah, that's like a value, originality, authenticity.
Exactly.
So that was, a value that was violated.
So you feel like
the
foundation is just.
I think there's like a little like crack that created a tiny little crack, and now people have built this $1 billion industry with that tiny crack. It's like the pea. What's that story about the pea in the mattress?
Yep.
Mattress.
Yeah,
whatever.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, the princess and the pea.
The princess and the pea. There it is. We are feeling the effects of that crack, and I don't want to like make it this big thing. I just think like if I can make some kids aware of like there's also DJing, there's breakdancing, there's rapping and MCing. Here's some other ways to do that. Here's producing. Here's street style fashion language, like hip hop. KRS-One describes hip hop as a civilization. So I'm more so just like wanting to shed light on the entire civilization and not just like our storytellers and our MCs, like our griots, so to speak. Like, here's the rest of they're cool. We love y'all. Keep doing your thing. If this is your tribe, join them. And like, here are 8 other tribes that you could be existing in.
Yeah.
And like, taking ownership, so to speak, of this thing.
All right, we have to go to a break. Right. It's funny because without a mic in front of you, you're like very quiet.
Yeah, I'm pretty shy.
And then you're like, I'm long-winded. I was like, really? And then
you have stuff to say. Like,
not long-winded in a bad way, but it's very thought out.
That's what we're here for,
We're going to do another podcast like about this, like specifically that.
Oh, I would love that.
Let's get it.
Okay.
There's another book while I'm just dropping things on you.
Please do.
Dan Charnas, Charnas, wrote a book that basically details the history of the business of hip-hop from day one till whenever he was writing it, which I think he might have made it into the 2010s, but it's thick. It's hardcover. If I was gonna see you again before I hit the road, I would just give you the copy to read.
Before I leave, I'm gonna get the name of it because
it's dope.
That.
Yeah, and we should put it in the podcast description as well because I would recommend it. I've lent it to people, but like, if you're not super interested in both the business and the music, it can be a bit much. But he breaks down like everything and a lot of these are like primary sourced interviews.
Dope. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
I need
from
that
day
too.
one how like this dude who was doing marketing at Coca-Cola and knew someone from there, how that led to the Sprite tie-in, and how it all got plugged together.
Sprite as in...
Sprite was one of the first brands to invest in
Yeah.
hip-hop.
Do you remember who was it? Who did KRS-One have beef? MC Shan. Weren't they on a Sprite commercial together?
Who would beef with KRS-One?
Well, this is
a lot of people back then.
I guess, yeah.
And
I'm
a lot of
pretty
people
sure
Nelly beef.
ill.
Nelly, like...
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that.
Nelly threw shots at him, and now KRS, like, I mean, he has a very complicated history now.
Yeah.
It's sort of... unfortunately, a lot of that got tainted as well in recent years.
No, I'm definitely gonna check that book out though, because even if that, like, that's
I learned a lot from
historically.
because the music industry is a nasty place anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm told.
And I think hip hop gets blamed for a lot of things that are music industry, like nasty things. That are from the music industry get put on hip hop. Like, it's so misogynistic, and it's like.
It's other things too.
There are other genres that are, like maybe the music.
And
anyway, that's
misogyny is in all genres, and people just call out hip hop for it. And
exactly.
It's like,
so
all right, why aren't you talking about that rock and roll song? Where he was
Punk
doing
doesn't
stuff
have
bad.
much misogyny.
Yeah, not
Maybe a little bit,
like not a huge amount, but
anyway, that's totally off it.
Yeah.
You are tuned into
Tangent.
LFOD Radio. We will be back with more from DJ Troy Frost after this. All right, we're back. LFOD Radio. We still got DJ Troy Frost with us. We have gone in all sorts of directions. None of them expected. All of them appreciated. A-Ball did his homework big time here, so he's got a lot of questions for you. Before he asks them, I have one I need to get to. Woom-Tang.
Yo, Woom-Tang.
I'm curious about one too.
Woom-Tang. All right, so in college, so I went to a women's college. That means a lot of things. But while I was there, I like really wanted to be a doula for a while. I still kind of want to be a doula, but I was really into like the womb. I watched The Business of Being Born and like got all this information. Was feeling like I'm a uterus having human, and I feel really good about that. Mm-hmm. And like wombs created all of us. Like, we're all here via a womb.
Yeah.
Shout out to the womb. So it was just a word I was using a lot in 2013 and 2014. And I was like, oh, Woom-Tang, like, that's ill, like Wu-Tang, but like womb-centered for people who have wombs. And I was like, oh, that'd be like a dope collective of, women rappers or people with wombs.
Oh, that's
rappers. Cool. But then I was like, the idea for it now, I would like for it to be a mixtape, and it will. So one of the ways that I'd like to grow as a DJ, or like take DJing to another level for myself personally, is to create like, in the way that a DJ takes other people's music and makes like a new experience with it, I would like to take, other people's work. So whether it's a whole album or a video, and be a DJ in that capacity. So I'd like Woom-Tang to be a mixtape, and I'd like to feature some artists on it and have it kind of mirror or be inspired by Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers.
All right.
Yeah.
sick.
So
I like it.
yeah. Woom-Tang is just like, do you have a womb? Do you love the Wu-Tang Clan? Then you probably need to be on this mixtape.
All right. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah,
Me
that's
either.
kinda
I
cool.
like have these. I have great ideas. It's like my execution game is poop. I'm working on it. It's
Okay.
getting better.
The mysteries of womb boxing.
It always
The
takes-
mysteries of womb boxing. That would be like, a song about menstruating or something. Like,
Yes.
so many ideas.
Lots of ideas.
So that's
Paul's horrified. He
Wu-Tang.
made the
No. I was just like, no, that was not
Wombs are
horror.
cool.
That was not horror. I was like, just like thinking about all the potential ideas that you can. I was like thinking about it like a session where you just start mixing and you get like
Enter
all
the
the Boston
36
ladies,
ovaries.
rappers rapping on it. You can make
Yeah.
it like 1 20-minute song and call it a mixtape. You know,
Yeah.
it'd be cool.
You're right. We
Something
can do
like
that.
that.
enter,
it's just-
enter the 36 ovaries.
There's Enter the 36 ovaries. And there's also mad, like, okay, Wu-Tang, okay, you know,
Sounds like
the whole
a-
afro-futurist, like, string in this conversation. But with Wu-Tang being so heavily influenced by the Nation of Islam and, like, the lessons, there's so much basic information about, like, human existence, or like, you know, the sun is 93 million miles away. Like, that's something that you might learn in there. Or like how, I don't know. I haven't read the lessons. I plan to read them just off the strength of being a fan and wanting to know what they're like, fully understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Not just be like, oh, what's the mathematics for today? And feel like, you know, I'm a true woo head. Like, so I'd like to learn, but I know that they have
They were very
information
5%.
about, like, like they have information about, basic information about life. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about the theme of a womb, there's a lot to be said about birth and creativity.
Incubation of energy.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
art. The
I
womb
can't
is
wait
art.
for all of the things you're talking
This
about.
is
to
exciting,
come
yeah.
to
I'm gonna
gonna
do
be-
it.
I'm gonna
You
be
guys are
following you.
helping me be accountable to my ideas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
this is
it's all-
recorded. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's in the
Word.
universe.
Shout out to Red Shades. She
Everyone's
also
waiting
helps
now.
me.
We're your accountability partners.
Thanks,
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah,
You good?
we'll stay on you. So A-Ball and his
Yeah,
homework.
yeah.
You actually
I
you
dived
hooked
in.
us up with some, like, you put us on to things
Yeah.
that we need to be put
Really?
on.
Yeah, like very useful things that will help us
Tell me
do
more.
things. Yes. So I found your podcast with the Dance Report and Miss 5678, and I thought that
Shout out to
I
her.
liked it a lot. And I remember that they were kind of like just talking about moving in the industry and how you felt like you had like these ideas, or like you. I felt like you, when that was in July, right?
Yeah.
I feel like from the way you sounded, it was almost like you were like worried about trying to get everything set up, and like they were like, "Yeah, but you're Red Shades DJ, you know, like you got this, you know." And,
Shout out to
and
Red Shades.
Shout out Red
Shout out
Shades.
to Red Shades.
She's ill.
And yeah, so I was just like wondering, like, do you feel like you've leveled up in the last like 6 months since that interview? Like, do you feel like you've been doing tours and awesome stuff?
Yeah, I think since that interview, shout out to Miss 5678. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Powerhouse.
I still need to meet her.
Make that happen.
Yeah.
I can support you. And you're a dancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's interviewed like I looked it up on Spotify. I'm like, I know like I've met like 8 of the people that she's interviewed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta
Meet her.
get familiar with her. I just found out about this, and
She's dope.
I couldn't find any photos of her, so I don't even know what she looks like.
She's a cute
Like-
woman with curly hair. She's amazing. I just really like her energy and stuff.
Solid.
But follow her. Since that interview, have I leveled up? It's a good question. I think it's funny because I think could be perceived as such. I think what really happened was that like September I moved I'm paying 1/4 for rent of what I was paying last year.
Nice.
So in July I was still in that
That's
apartment and I was
gains.
not clear on whether I was going to continue the lease or not.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that I'm in a more stable place in terms of my income and my living situation has allowed for me to like to make more space for artistic endeavors and also
Word.
to be like more appreciative of what's going on. So I think yes,
Yeah. Word.
there's been some leveling
level.
up, especially in regards to Red Shades because she's killing it and has been booking some really dope gigs, and I feel like
Word.
super grateful to be able to like support her and like
Yeah.
work with her in general, but at these particular gigs. So I think yes, there have been like some dope opportunities that have come in the last 6 months, and at the same time I've created more stability for myself where I can actually like kind of see like it's really not as hectic as it seems. When you have to pay, like when you're struggling to make ends meet, everything feels more like
Stressed.
yeah. Whereas now I'm like, okay, most of my bills are covered and I can have a little more space for other things. So yes, I have leveled up.
Excellent.
Congrats.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Word. So like on the other note of that podcast, there was a discussion of like sort of moving through the industry and juggling business and fun with being because like I think all of us here are kind of like in a way trying to bring our art, and I definitely understand that when you start to turn something you do for fun into something that you make money out of, there are going to be aspects that become less fun immediately. And that's something like, yeah, it's like, I'm like, oh man, I'm like starting to get recorded and stuff. Like I need to clean up everything that I do and like start doing boring drills and like do more of that. And like, I'm just wondering, like, do you find like a balance between what you feel like you love what you need to practice to, or is it like you do stuff that you like to do for fun when you're like stewing around on the tables, and then you practice stuff that you like know you have to practice?
I think that I like the way I strike a balance is by being intentional about what gigs I take on. So I think sometimes the like discipline, so to speak, comes in with practice, where I'm like, you need to get better at scratching. Like you've been using your controller a lot.
Yeah.
You're losing your muscle memory on your turntables. Like you need to be practicing your turntables. Like that's when it's like, okay, mom, like my inner mom holding me down. But then I think so that doesn't always feel fun, but it's necessary, and I see why it's there. And then sometimes so with certain gigs, like some gigs allow me to practice and really like get into a good practice, which I'm thankful for. Other gigs are more like, we just want you to be our human jukebox. Like I have to accept that that's a part of the job sometime. And it's like, play this and play that. And, you know, at this point you're going to do this. That I don't like that, I realized. And I was taking a lot of those gigs, and then I'm like mad, or I'm like, oh, like having an attitude. It's like, wow, you have an attitude. You're doing what you love. You have an attitude. Okay, so we need to like recalibrate and review.
Right.
So I may take those gigs here and there because I have to work, and I would like to DJ full time at some point. And so I'm going to have to take gigs that I don't always enjoy, but I think it's assessing like, all right, how do I need to do this gig? Is this going to support my growth in a real way? And so not just taking gigs because I need the money for them, and like that being okay. Again, like I had mentioned, a scarcity mindset. That's something that I'm very familiar with, especially, you know, having to make things work when you're working class. Like you're always making things work.
Shout out to the Beat Club podcast.
Beat Club podcast?
Beat Club.
Is that with Mark
Make-ish
Maron?
work. Yeah, with Marin.
Okay, cool.
Loops.
Word.
He's cool.
Artificial AV.
Word.
Every time I hear make things work, I think I used to scream that at people on stage, you know, because the producers would be having to make it work, and you know, the whole crowd,
That's kind of ill.
Not to derail you, but
no, that's
and that's
what
also
I'm doing.
very hip hop, doing what you can with what you have.
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
Yeah,
For real.
So I think that's a great question. I think it's something I'm always thinking about. Of like, okay, why I notice how I feel a lot. So if I show up to a gig and
it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, like I'll do it and I'll fulfill my obligation, and then after I'll assess like, well, what happened? Because I've showed up to gigs. I remember showing up to a gig. I had just moved out of my apartment, and I was so tired, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. This space is cute. It's cool. Like, shout out to Third Wave. It was a Third Wave event. And then I started playing my set, and the people's energy was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like a new person. So it's like, there are gigs where I can come in like wrecked, and I leave feeling like I've arrived. This is, you know? So I think it's kind of noticing like what feels okay after, and not feeling like everything needs to feel amazing. I need to indulge in, like, I'm learning, it's a job, and like, it doesn't have to be, you know, just about the money.
Yeah, I think that's big, because I was thinking about in the last session, like what is it that we can do to like balance the industry with the culture, and like, because we need the industry to reflect what the culture is doing, right? But like sometimes the money isn't like where the person who's representing the culture is, maybe, and like they have to then tailor themselves to go do, like you said, like go do gigs you don't want to do. And it's like, how do we, it was just something I'm like, I legitimately don't have an answer for this, but how do we like,
chasing money doesn't usually lead
Yeah.
to good places.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
I
how do
feel
we
like-
make that effort to change the industry?
Yeah, I think part of that effort for me is being intentional about connecting interpersonally with folks. And so, for example, if there is an event that someone asks me, like, can you DJ? We don't really have a budget. I'm not going to be like, well, no. I might say, like, well, here's what I can do. Here's what I need to at least, can you cover transportation so I can get there? Like, that kind of thing. And
there's a budget they don't know about.
Yeah, there's something, and so, like, being able to work with people, that feels important to me, because then it's like we're building an actual relationship versus it just being like a transaction and like, do you have the money? Oh, then I can't do it. Like, there are some people that genuinely expect that, like, they think that DJs fell from the sky and came here to provide music for free. And then there are other people who are like, we get it, it's your work, and like, can we work together? I feel like that's one way to like maintaining that human connection in the work, like respecting people's business affairs, but then also like being willing to work, because there will be times when I need something, or I can now say to that person, like, hey, can you support me with this? And that is an opportunity for me to see, like, were you really being genuine in your like desire to support one another, or was it just you trying to get something? Now, if it's the negative case, cool. Now I know I don't really want to work with you again, or now I see the signs of like, okay, how someone with that kind of intention may move. And then if it's the other way around, where it's like they came through for me, it's like, okay, like I'm growing my tribe, so to speak, and I think connection and community is important. When the business things fall to the wayside or they don't work out, it's like, well, I can hit up
the community will be the glue.
I can hit up LFOD and be like, hey, y'all, I don't know.
No, we're serious about it.
Yeah, if you need anything, let us know.
So, and before we get out here, I'm glad you reached that mindset. It sounds very healthy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Super dope.
I think I'm reminded, I went to a conference at Harvard last year, a music entrepreneur conference, and one of the guys was saying, he was like, they really drove it home, like, you're in the entertainment business, the music business, whatever, like, that's a gift. It's like a very small amount of people that are given the opportunity to make a living there, and like, it's a fun place to make a living. So like, remember that and have fun and like really try to hold. There is annoying stuff. There is work, but like, there were people who would do anything to get in that spot, and
who might be working in a cubicle right now.
Right. If you're complaining about late nights partying, like, and it's a draining industry, but it's also very, it's a gift, and definitely try to have fun no matter what. Because it is very easy to get caught up complaining. Even in the like, I think it's more of just, for me, I know like when I get to that place where I'm like, this isn't working, and not, like, just complaining, it's like, you're not managing yourself well. Like, you're mismanaging some things, because it's really not that bad. Like, there are situations where maybe it is, but like, I guess what I'm more so trying to say is that you're right. It is something that people would love, a position people would love to be in, and having fun is important. And also, like, being really clear and realistic about the fact, like, for me, I'm clear on the fact that there's a lot I could do with DJing. And so my job is to entertain people, and there will come a point where, like, I'm no longer entertaining, things shift. Well, I mean, like, okay, music is, limitless and timeless. You're going to be DJing on the International Space Station someday. Like, I already know this.
How about interplanetary?
I'm here for it. Well, my point is just that, someone else is going to come, right? And so I need to make sure that, like, I'm not being naive about it. Like, what? You guys don't want to see me? And like, no, they don't. Like, I'm going to have children one day, and they're going to have children. They're not going to see their grandma DJing.
You literally have Reminisce built into your name, so
exactly.
They're gonna be thinking about it.
That's a good one.
Touché.
Yo,
that was very smart.
Do we have time for the last question? Because I want to get into this mix. I really want to hear this mix.
Oh yeah.
I could answer it briefly.
Can you?
Sure.
No, probably not. I can try.
No, probably
try
not.
it on.
All right. What does live free or die mean to you?
Live free or die means to me. Let's see. What does live free or die mean to me? It means working towards being the true you,
Okay.
As often as possible, taking every opportunity to do that, to really like express as you and notice when you're not, and adjust.
Word.
Dope.
Live free, be you, whatever that
I love
means.
it.
That feels like good for me right now, because
Yeah.
you will dive trying to be somebody else. I'm a Scorpio, and we're
Word.
familiar with death, so I can confirm that for you.
Okay, cool.
Wow, that's crazy. Is that a thing? Scorpios and death?
They associate death with Scorpios. I mean, we're good at like we're associated with phoenixes and stuff. So
Oh,
like
okay.
not
yeah,
like
no, it wasn't just like, yeah, we just
like I died and came back. More like
yeah.
just like, you know, a,
rebirthing and resurrection. and all
yeah.
that
So
cool
like
stuff.
you try to be somebody else, you might die
Yeah.
energetically.
You might destroy your genuine self. in
You
the
might
process.
die energetically.
Could
Trippy.
happen.
Yeah, we have these like energy talks at times, and like we get real deep.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Is that what she said?
That's what you said. You
That's
might
what I
die.
said.
That was a
energetically.
literal. That wasn't. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that was a literal one. No, we do play the phrasing game. But,
Oh, he got me good with phrasing.
yeah, we do play phrasing.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll have an astrology conversation off air.
I'd
Very
love
different
to do
from
that.
astronomy.
Very.
Yes, and yet there's some.
Those are the only
overlap.
two science classes I took.
Maybe there
in
is some
college.
science within them. Yeah.
I had to do 2 science credits.
They used
and
to
I
be
did
like
2
this.
astronomy ones.
They used to be like, and then you know, I don't know what happened. That's the part. That's why I got a D in that class because
Scientists
trying
are
to
all
do
like,
the proudest. It was the proudest D I ever received.
I don't
like,
care about your spiritual ish. Give
Well,
me
the
facts,
stars
you
are
know?
literally not in the same place. Well, yeah, we can.
Oh.
Oh
that's
yeah,
good
like
to
all the
know.
zodiac signs have changed.
Yeah,
over time.
they're not in the same places in the sky where it would have originally lined up.
Crazy stuff.
Sometimes I'm an
kinda
astrology truther. Sometimes I'm into it. Kind of depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to write off a lot of it, and like
We really
growing
got to
up-
do it off air though.
Yeah.
We got to wrap this up.
Word.
Peace out.
yeah. All right.
No, because I want her mixed because she's going to play a ton
Right,
of
right, yeah,
artists.
we-
and I
we-
want
we gotta make time for
I
the
want to get them
music.
on the air.
We don't have time to talk
So-
about crystals.
Yeah. Thank you, DJ Troy
you.
Frost, for joining us today.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
it was a-
me.
this was
Really
dope.
nice
Ultimate
to
pleasure.
know.
I'm looking forward to the next combo for sure, and seeing everything you've talked about come to fruition. We'll be back next week with more. If you're tuned in live on air, make sure you subscribe. We are a podcast as well. You can get us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, pretty much anywhere. LFODradio.com. Even if you're not tuned in live, I would subscribe so you'll get the next one right away. It'll come up at like 4 in the morning. You can wake up, put us on with your coffee. We're on most podcast apps. If you can't find us on yours, let us know. We'll get it added. You can keep up with us at LFOD Radio or LFOD Life on Facebook. We also have a YouTube page, which if you haven't checked it out, I would definitely recommend. We'll have video from the interviews, extra bars, live event footage. This DJ mix will be up there as well. And we got to shout out our patrons. If you don't know what that means, please head over to Patreon, patreon.com/LFOD Life, and take a look there. And finally, the record company, thank you. Pavement Coffee, thank you. All our listeners, thank
Yeah.
you.
Big thank you. for
A-Ball, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Christiana.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you for having me.
And artists and managers, submissions at LFODradio.com. Send us clean records. Everything you heard earlier in the show, we got from there. And we'll be getting more. We're going to keep on rolling.
More and more.
Live free or die.